Okay. Well, hello, welcome. Welcome to today's little webinar we have today. It's called What is the Window of Tolerance and How Can It Help Me? This is part of our Resilience Tools for Parents series here at Polara Health. We're just happy you joined in. My name is Beni Garcia, and I've been working here at Polara Health. I love it here. I work on the kids team, and I've been working with children and families my entire adult life. It's a passion of mine. This Resilience Tools for Parents series is being made available to us through the Crisis Response Network through a grant through SAMHSA. And its goal is to provide mental health tools and support through this global pandemic. And even though it feels like it should be over, it really isn't, does it? And so it really does. It affects so many areas of our life. And so that's what our goal is how can we help work with some of that stress, especially through the lens of family, children and families. So like I said, today's topic is what is the window of tolerance and how can it help me? And in this short hour, we're going to talk about Dr. Dan Siegel and his colleagues' concept of the window of tolerance and tools to help you and your children stay in this window for optimal living. Before we get started, not before we get started. We're gonna let's see if this was live, I would direct you in case you're curious. At the very, very top of your screen, it says menti.com, and that's just a really nice tool to use when people are live. So in case you're just wondering what that is, we won't be using that today. All right, first off, I wonder if anybody has actually ever heard of the window of tolerance. Let's see if there's anything here that if you have heard of it, maybe there's some things that might help you think about it in a different way. This was just our little icebreaker. What's your favorite way to spend time with your children? And so let's take a moment to think about that. Just kind of do a grounding moment where you kind of think about that feeling of what it feels like to do that. One person used the Mentimeter in another meeting and they said hiking and outdoor activities, that's their favorite way. What's your way? All right, now we're going to use your imagination again and see if we can conjure up some feelings, some internal feelings. So I want you to imagine that you're having a really nice day with your child and you're doing something enjoyable, like maybe what you just thought about. And all is well. Everything's wonderful. Now imagine in this scenario how you would respond if your child said, I'm hungry. Right? You know how they say that. I'm hungry. Chances are, if you're having this wonderful day, you're going to go and fix something to eat without much of an issue. Right? They're like, oh, okay, let's go, blah, blah, blah. Or here, I'm going to make you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now imagine, I'm going to switch the scenario a little bit. I want you to imagine that you just got off the phone with a bill collector and you've been so busy, you haven't had a chance to go food shopping. And another child in your home is crying. You get the picture. Now, how do you feel? Take a moment to really go there for a second. Is there tension? Oh, how do your shoulders feel? Is your jaw locked? How does the sound of your voice, what does that sound like when it comes out of your mouth? How's your patience level? What's your response like? So the window of tolerance, this is where things feel just right, where you are at your best able to cope with the punches that life throws at you. You're calm, but you're not tired. You're alert, but you're not anxious. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about the window of tolerance. Now, I like the idea of the river of tolerance. So here's my river. It's the same concept, the river of tolerance. So the goal with the window or the river is to stay in the window or stay in the river. We want to be there. We want to float along life, enjoying it, being able to deal with the currents. It's all good. So I'm going to have a little bit of fun here. I'm going to draw. Let's see if I can get a little guy. Let's see. All right, so here is our little river of tolerance. And right here, I'm going to draw us a little sailboat. And so our goal is to have a nice little sailboat and sail through life on the river of tolerance. And so right here, that's going to be us. I'm going to be really happy little people. Maybe you can see his eyes are a little tiny. Here you go. And there's just happy little guy. Okay. And oh, he's going to be really interesting. I'm having fun drawing here. So he's waving out. So sometimes the river goes fast and it's treacherous. Sometimes it's slow and gentle. And the more experience we have, the more tools we know, the better we are at staying in the river and being okay as we're in this river. Sometimes life gets hard, and that ends up making the river get pretty narrow, making it really difficult to stay in the river. And again, that's our goal. Our goal is to stay in the river. When life gets more and more stressful, the river gets shorter, the water gets choppier. That's when we need more and more resources. Now, with COVID, with the amount of tiny little stresses and big ones that just keep coming at us, that has made our collective river kind of pretty skinny. So you may have noticed maybe pre-COVID, people may have been a little nicer. I don't know. Everybody's experience is different, but maybe you may have noticed people maybe be a little more impatient at the store, things like that. And again, everybody's experience is different. Maybe you're the one that says, you know what, I haven't had any stress. I love being at home. But as a collective whole, we've all experienced these different levels of just higher stress. One of the things that causes stress is just change. And all of us have really experienced that. Think about our level of frustration around how you feel around masks and people wearing them or people not wearing them, things like that. Okay, so let's talk about why we want to stay in the river. On either side of the river, we've got two lands, okay? On one land, let me see if I can get another color here that we can see. So bear with me. On this land, we're gonna call this the land of fire. Oops, let's see here. Land of fire, or if we want to get a little more technical, we'll call it the land of hyper arousal. All right, this is the land of hyperarousal. On this side, let's see if I can change the color right here. Okay, so on this side, we're going to have the land of ice, or we're going to get technical, the land of hypoarousal, or we also know this as I don't know how to spell sometimes, dissociation, okay? So the brain, when life comes at us, when we've got stress coming at us, if we have the tools and the experience and the knowledge and the resources to deal with the stress, we stay in the river, we're good. But if we don't have the tools and the resources and the things that we need to be able to stay in that river, the brain only has two routes to go. It's either the land of fire or the land of hyperarousal or the land of ice, the land of hypoarousal. And those are the two mechanisms that our brain or our body uses to help us deal, okay? If the closer we get to one of these banks or the lands, the closer we get, or as soon as we get on one of these lands, we're going to call that dysregulation. Okay, we're feeling dysregulated. We're not in a regulated state. So if we crash over into this land of fire, our heart rate, we're really activating that sympathetic nervous system. Our heart rate is going fast. Our pulse is going pretty fast. Our mind is racing. Let's see, we get hyperactive sometimes. Our emotions run really, really high. We get reactive. We can be explosive. Do you recognize that? You might recognize that in yourself. You might recognize it in your child or your children. Sometimes we see that a lot, actually. When you see that in yourself or you see that in your child, I want you to now think, oh, they're dysregulated. How do we get them back in the river? Now, if they crash on the other side, if they crash onto the land of ice or the land of hypoarousal, it's still dysregulation. It just looks a little different, right? The heartbeat actually slows down. as a way of surviving. You get very, very low energy. You get tired and depleted, and maybe you feel like you're in a fog. You might be sad or depressed, but eventually you might just get to an apathetic state, like hoodie, non-responsive. At the very, very end of that continuum, you might even faint. Okay, so these are these two lands. All right, so we're gonna say goodbye to our little guy. Thank you, little guy. Okay. So here it is. Here's our little, so we are the pink unicorn floaty, and we're trying to stay in the river, right? So if we hit this side, we get into hyperarousal or excessive activation of energy. But if we hit this side, we freeze response, we're emotionally flat, lack of energy, that sort of thing. Okay, so as soon as we start getting close over here, we're dysregulated. But the optimal zone is right here in the middle, and that's our goal. Now I'm going to point out that the next few little images and things, it comes from a place called mindmypeelings.com. And so I have it written here at the bottom of your slide if you wanted to jot it down. I really, really love this website. This man, he decided to journal through his battle with anxiety. And so he's got a blog post there and you get to read through that. But what I love about this website is that he's also a graphic designer. So every time he learns a new concept, gathers new information that he finds useful, he has this gift of being able to just put it all together in this wonderfully graphic design way that just helps clarify the information. So we're going to be using a lot of his art on this particular presentation, and it's all free. So I highly encourage people to check it out. So let's talk a little bit more about these lands, right? So the first thing we want to do is in order to do anything about it, in order to get back in the river, we have to first be aware that we're dysregulated. We just first have to be aware that, oh, we're in the land of fire or we're in the land of ice. And so this checklist, which is available on his website, kind of helps you to start getting into that place of self-awareness. So here's this list of all these different ways that you might experience life if you are stuck on this land. Anxiety, impulsivity, intense reactions, lack of emotional safety, hypervigilance, intrusive imagery, like you just keep thinking about things that you don't want to think about, tension, shaking, rigidness, addictions, overeating. These are all tools that we use to try to deal with this dysregulation. They're not helpful, but they are what they are. So we need to just acknowledge that, oh, I'm dysregulated. I'm in the land of hyperarousal. Excessive thoughts or behaviors, emotional outbursts, chaotic, responsive. Here's this one. This one really caught my eye. Defensiveness. You ever been defensive? I haven't. No, just kidding. I have so many times. And when I learned about this and realized that now, then anytime I am defensive, I go, oh, you're dysregulated, Beni. So I just do whatever I need to do. I'll take a deep breath, try to reset, to try to get myself back in the river. And it really helps. Just awareness and then a tool, and then I'm better able to get back into that water, into that window. Racing thoughts, anger, rage, physical, emotional aggression. So now let's look at the land of ice, the land of hypo-arousal. Here's some of the things you might experience if you're stuck on that land or crashed in there. Maybe you feel like you're disconnected, like, oh, I don't know. Or maybe you just don't have many emotions. You're just kind of numb-ish. You're on autopilot. You're just kind of going through the motions in life. Maybe you have some memory loss. I'm not sure what the feigned death response, what he's really talking about there. Numbness, you might feel like kind of numb, like you usually would feel pretty happy about something or pretty excited or maybe really upset, but if you're in this space, you don't feel anything. Can't really think clearly. You don't feel like moving, you're really sluggish. decreased reactions. You might feel more shame or get embarrassed more often, which causes you to withdraw even more. You might feel depression. You might have a hard time like actually reaching out to actually use some coping resources that you already know about. You might actually forget those or not want to use them. You might have low levels of energy. You have a very hard time defending yourself. Go into shutdown, have a hard time saying no. These are all indicators that what? Yeah, you're dysregulated. You're dysregulated. There's nothing wrong with you. It's a biologically correct response to not having the resources to deal with the stress in your life at that moment. It's biologically correct. Your body's trying to help you. So once you have that awareness, you can go, thank you, body. Now I'm going to try to figure out how to get back in the water. So this is what the whole worksheet looks like that you can download. So step one is awareness, right? That's step one. Step two is get back in the river. And so that sounds really easy and super simplistic. I get it. But hopefully I'm going to give you a couple little tools that might help you to start to think about things that you can do. I'm going to show you a wonderful quote. This quote comes from Viktor Frankl. He's a psychologist and he's an author. He's a Holocaust survivor, and he writes incredibly important, and like his writings are amazing. And this is a quote that he says. He says, between the stimulus and your response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Isn't that good? So good. It's so good. And for some of us, between stimulus and response, there's not much time. There's not much room, is there? But with effort, with practice, the way you would go to the gym and work on those biceps, with practice, that little space can become a little bit bigger so that you can become more and more mindful about the way you do respond. So have grace for yourself if it's a very skinny space. So remember, step one, awareness. Step two, we can start making those different choices. But what can we do? So what can we do between stimulus and response? And so if we were in a group and you were here with me in real time, we would have a discussion right now about what are some things that we can do. And so I'm going to give you, so I'm going to give you a quick second so you can actually think about it. Well, what do you do? What do you do when your child does something that's like, oh, I can't believe you did that. What do you usually do? Do you usually react? But in your best self, what do you do? You take a deep breath and then try to respond instead of react. Do you go and get a drink of water? What are some other things that people can do? You can, some people count. Some people use a combination. Maybe they'll take a deep breath and then they'll try to reframe the situation. Like instead of going, my kid is just trying to do this to drive me crazy. You can maybe try to reframe and go, my child is dysregulated and needs my support. How can I help him get back in the river? All right, so using a combination. So we're going to do a quick, the easiest way to get back into this river is to breathe. And I know that's extremely simplistic, but it is so effective. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick breather. And I want you to just experience this. Just experience. Feel how you're feeling now. And let's just experience breathing. Ooh, I didn't let you. Yeah, you finished breathing out. Actually, I'm going to tell you something scientific about that. So when we breathe in longer than we breathe out, so like a that activates the sympathetic nervous system. So what that means is that if you're lying on the couch and you just cannot get yourself out of it, if you do that or go, it will energize you. It will give you more energy and it will help you maybe get yourself up off that couch. The opposite is also true. If you breathe out a little bit longer than you breathe in, you're going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which means you're going to get a calming physiological response. So that looks like a fun way to do that with kids could be like candles on a cake. Like, hey, buddy, how many candles do you need? Like after the first time they do this, they'll get to know what you're talking about. And maybe they'll say 2. So you'll put up 2 fingers and then they have to blow out the candles and make it really hard for them to blow it out because that's more air out, more parasympathetic activation. So blow harder, blow harder. Good job. Let's do it one more time. That's a fun little way to help bring a little bit of calming energy for our kids or you. Right? There's lots of fun little breathing exercises you can do. So how do you feel? Do you feel a little bit like, what do your shoulders feel like? Do they feel a little less tense? This is important. This is important because the more these physiological responses that help calm us, that help us get back in the river, that means we're going to have more resources. We're going to be able to handle life way better. If we try to handle life while we're in one of those lands, it's not going to go so well. So think about that for yourself and for your children. So we're going to go back to Mind My Peelings. And this is a cute little worksheet you can download off of his website. Just you can search for daily dose. Dose stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphin. And these are 4 of the popular happiness kind of reward type chemicals in the brain. They're neurotransmitters that kind of help light up the nucleus accumbens, make us feel good. And so you can read a little bit about it if you were to download this. And it's this worksheet has 3 steps. So this is the top part of the worksheet. This is step 1. Step 2 is this is the way I use it. Okay. And again, this is all on one worksheet. I take a pencil. You can take a pencil and you can go through each one of these boxes one by one. So for instance, we would start at the green box if we want to, and we go procrastination. Is that something that resonates? Is that something that I do a lot? Yes, no. If it is, check it or make a little mark. You can go down, low self-esteem, lack of motivation, low energy, fatigue, so on and so forth. We won't do it here. If you really want to do this, go to Mind My Peelings, look for daily dose, and get yourself this worksheet and you can work on it on yourself. And so this is not meant to diagnose. So I've got to make that disclaimer. But what happens is if you do this, then you stand back and you look, which one of these boxes has the most marks or the most checks? And then you can identify, oh, well, that might mean I'm deficient in this particular neurotransmitter. Right? So if it was the orange box, for example, maybe I have low self-esteem, maybe I've been really overly sensitive and I've been having a lot more panic and anxiety attacks and mood swings and all these things. And then it will indicate that maybe you're low in serotonin. Again, only a doctor can really figure all these things out, but this is a fun little tool to try. So then step 3 is you go ahead and follow it. And so if ours was serotonin in the orange, we'd look at the orange box. And these are simple, backed with studies that show that these simple little things that you do, they're non-medical, might actually increase your levels of that neurotransmitter in your brain. There's been studies that back all this up. So in the case of serotonin, exercise. So it might be hard to get us up out of that couch, but if we do it and take a walk or a bike ride or any kind of exercise, you might find that you actually feel better because it activates the production of serotonin in the brain. Cold showers, some people are like, wait, what? You cannot pay me enough to take a cold shower. However, I will splash cold water on my face. And I feel like I get a similar result. And, when I do that, I feel different. Try it and see if that's the case for you. But if you're strong, if you're brave, you could take a cold shower or maybe end your shower with like a cold rinse. Sunlight, massage. That sounds really good right now. So every single one of these boxes has a whole little set of things that don't take a prescription and that can actually increase the levels of those neurotransmitters in our brain. So that's just like a little tool to help get you back in the river. All right. So now let's talk about our children. So what we were just looking at is it could be good for our children, but it's especially for us. Because when we are out of our river, we can't be good parents, we can't be good caregivers, we can't be good teachers. It's just really difficult. So it's really important to first work on getting ourselves into the river. Once we're in the river, now we're in a better place to help our children get back in their river. So if they're acting crazy or if they're really withdrawn, before we try to help them, we want to get in the river first. Now let's talk about a few little tools that we can use for kids. So in this particular slide, what we're showing you is something called an engine plate, which was really made popular and really used a lot in TBRI. And that stands for trust-based relational intervention. David Cross and Karen Purvis created this program at Texas Christian University, and it is an amazing trauma-informed program for working with children, especially children that have come from hard backgrounds. But some of the tools that they use is good for everyone. So remember how we talked about self-awareness, how that's the first step? Well, this tool is a self-awareness tool for kids. And to be honest, we use it here at Polara in the office. Sometimes us adults will say, hey, I'm in the blue right now. All right, so even adults can use it. Okay, so you can make a really simple one out of paper plates, like right, just as you see it here. And this, what you're looking at, is also the river of tolerance, really. So the green is your river. And that's kind of our goal. We kind of want to be there the most often. The blue is hypoarousal or dissociation, kind of. And the red is hyper arousal. Okay. We want to be careful not to villainize any of the colors. They just are. We all go to all the colors and it's okay. And sometimes it's okay to be in those colors. Like right before bed, I want to be in the blue, right? I want to be really tired and immobile because that's the closer I get to getting into that sleep land, I'm going to be in the blue. That's okay. And when something exciting happens, I'm going to be in the red for a little while. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong to be excited. We just don't want to stay in those places for too long, especially if they're going to make our life harder. But for the most part, we want to be regulated and in the green. Okay, we want to be balanced. We want to be in our little sailboat. So these kids, they take really quickly to this. Once you teach it to them, they get it really, really fast. And the way we teach it is we'll say, you know, all those dials in our car right in front of the steering wheel? Yeah. Well, you know, all those dials, they tell us how the car is doing. They tell us about how the engine's doing so that we know what it needs. So it tells us when it's hungry and it needs gas. It tells us if it's overheating and it needs some more water. It tells us all kinds of things. And this is your engine plate. And it's going to tell us how you're doing and if you need something. So green means just right. That's where we want to be most of the time. Red means you're kind of overheating. Your car is and it's overheating. And if it's in the blue, it's maybe it won't even turn on. Maybe it needs some food, maybe you need some rest, that's what this is all about. And so you can say, hey, so where are you on your energy plate right now? And kids are really, really good at identifying where they're at. They're really good. So then the next question is, oh, okay. And if they're not in red or blue, or if they're not in green, you can go, so what do you need to get back to green, you think? Right? And so this is step one, teaching them about self-awareness. This is even before we even come to, well, how do you feel? Right? Before we ever even talk about our feelings, we just got to be aware of our body state. And this is a great tool for that. So some of the ways that you might feel when you're in the blue, and you can explain this, is you might be hungry, you might be sick, you might be tired, you might be sad, you might feel defeated, something happened. The red is when we have too much energy and our engine's running super fast. Maybe we're jumping off the walls. Maybe we're a little aggressive. Maybe we're taking toys. Maybe we're yelling. Maybe we're being a little disrespectful or reactive. The green means that we're just kind of balanced. We're just right. We're awake, we're creative, we're friendly. So when I'm working with kiddos, I often have a little bag. Oh, I meant to have it out here. Let me see if I have it. Here it is. What I'll say is, where are you at? They'll go, oh, I'm in the red. Oh, I can see that. What do you think you need to get back to green? And I'll go, I don't know. And I'll go, that's okay. Would you like to see Miss Beni's shiny bag of ideas? So I have this little shiny bag here. And inside of Miss Beni's shiny bag of ideas is a set of cards that I got off of Teachers Pay Teachers. Teachers Pay Teachers is a wonderful website. And I love buying things off of there. Some things are free and some things are just very, very inexpensive. I love using that website because I know the money's going directly to teachers and people who devote their life to children. So that just makes me excited to want to use it. And they have tons of resources. And if you look up regulation cards or coping skills, things like that, you're going to see different ones come up and you can look through and see what you like and download. I downloaded some and laminated them. The kids love to dump these out all over the floor and they'll flip through them and they'll find one or two that they want to try to get themselves back to green. Okay, so get a drink of water, maybe ask for help, maybe do some jumping jacks, maybe build something, maybe push against a wall, because when you activate those muscles and then release, there's this calming response that happens. There's a ton of stuff in here. Another thing that a lot of my parents do is they'll sit and they'll do a Google search for coping skills and they'll make their own set of cards on index cards or cardboard and make their own little bag. So that's something that you can do. And so the kids do like to use that. And everybody's so different. Like in my cards, listening to music is not on there. So I've had some of my own kids write that one in. They'll make their own card that says, okay, I'll put in my headphones when I feel that way. Or get on my hammock. That's one that's not in my set, but you can put in your own. So it's important for you to know what works for your kids and then add that and try new things. So I do have this wonderful resource that I was able to find that's free. Now, this might be tricky for you to write all this down and locate this. So I have two suggestions for you. You can either just do your Google search and find these resources on your own, or you can email me at b.garcia, Garcia, at Polara, so that's Polara Health, all one word, health, HEALTH.com. And if you email me and say, hey, can you send me those coping skills worksheets? I would love to. I'd be happy to just send this resource out to you. And it's several pages long. It comes from a reputable source, PESI, and it has lots of different ideas for different ages of things that you can do to help with coping. Okay. And other things that you can try are some apps, right? We all have phones, and there's so many wonderful apps out there. A few tried and true ones are one called Smiling Mind. And that is an Australian one that has a pretty good reputation. There's Insight Timer. That one is better probably for adults. Insight Timer has a trillion different meditations and mostly meditation type things. They even have some little talks on there and stuff like that too. So there's a way to search like meditation for sleeping, meditation for whatever. There's a whole way of searching. So that's a really great one for adults. Smiling Mind has stuff for children and for adults. And then breath work. That's a real simple app. I recently realized that it's only on Apple, but there are similar ones on Google. And what I like about this one is it's super simple. It's really clean interface, and it's only going to help you breathe. It's the only thing it does. And it gives you, it asks you, do you need breathing to wake you up? Do you need breathing to calm you down? Do you need breathing? Like, it gives you like 4 different options. And then it just guides you through real simple breathing, and it's so effective and so simple. So those are just a few, and they're mostly all free, or at least have free options. Okay. So just if you were here together, we would have a conversation. What stood out for you today? Maybe even if you already knew about the window of tolerance, what stood out for you that was different, or something that you want to try or be more aware of now? And if you hadn't heard about it, what are you going to take away from today? And when you leave here, we talked about tons of tools, tons of thoughts and ideas. So just think about that for a minute. Well, it was a pleasure to be able to put this together for you all. This slide did not want to go through, did it? Oh, there we go. So to conclude, again, just to remind you, this was all made possible because of CRN and SAMHSA, and there is a wonderful program that offers free crisis counseling to people. So if you're really in a place that you really need help, you have extra anxiety or fear or whatever's going on, we want to help. And is a simple call 211, and Resilient Arizona, somebody will answer the phone and can help you. They might be able to refer you to someone. It's all free of charge. So yeah, we encourage you to use this resource if it's a need. And we're just so glad that you were able to watch today. So again, if you have any additional questions, remember that email. I'll say it one more time: b.garcia@polarahealth.com. Have a wonderful day.